Hello and welcome to Week 10, Big Rican Browns pregame live here on both the Big Rican YouTube channel and the Big Rican Facebook page. Haven't seen you guys really since we did Buckeye pregame last week as the Browns had the week off. So let's dive in to where the Cleveland Browns sit as of right now. 5-3 in the first 8 going into the bye in Week 9, which I think is a great time for the bye, especially with the injuries the Browns have had in the last couple of weeks. You gave Baker and Jarvis an extra week to get healthy. You gave Nick Chubb an extra week to get healthy. Same thing with Austin Hooper, who had appendicitis, and the same thing with Wyatt Teller, who had a leg injury on the offensive line. So as we head into week 10, coming off a tough loss to Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, at home in some bad weather, no excuses. There were balls that should have been caught for points, and there were balls that should have been caught for first downs. There were throws that were missed by Baker Mayfield, and there was defensive opportunities that were missed by the Browns at large. But now starts the second half of the season. And if you'd have told me when I did my prediction show back in whenever the NFL schedule came out, I think I did it the day or two after, that I would be almost right on at 5-3 going into the bye, I'd have told you I'd take it. Any Browns fan in the world would take it. So now they have to build, because now the easiest part of the Browns schedule is what comes next. That means in the next 8 games, the Cleveland Browns will play Houston today, Philly next week. They get the Steelers and the Ravens bookended by 2 games against the Jets and the Giants. Not to mention, as we get into the rest of their schedule, and I pull it up here on my phone, give me 1 second, because ESPN's taking just a minute, because it is an absolute pain. So yeah, this week against Houston, next week against Philly, then at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, home for Baltimore, the 2 games in the New York area against the Jets and Giants in weeks 15 and 16 respectively, and then finish up the season at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another 5-3 outing is not out of the realm, and for a team that could go 10-6 and possibly get into the playoffs and make some noise, it all starts today against the Houston Texans. So let's dive into the game today. Let's make sure we get into what the Browns have going for them, which, believe it or not, in a game against the Houston Texans is a lot. And we're going to start with the Houston Texans and what their issues are. Let me get a sip of this first. Let's start with the Houston Texans. Have already changed head coaches this year. Romeo Crennel, an old Browns favorite, former head coach, is actually the interim head coach in Houston. And listen, Romeo is running a team that's 2-6. He is running a team that has a phenomenal quarterback, but a defense and okay weapons around him, but a defense that is vastly underperformed, even though J.J. Watt has been mostly healthy this year. So let's start with what the Browns have going for them besides the way the other team has played so far this year. Here's the first thing. The Cleveland Browns get Wyatt Teller and Nick Chubb both back this week from injury. You are talking about before Chubb's injury and Teller's injury, the Browns had 8 rushing touchdowns. Since then, 0. You're getting your horse back, which means it moves Kareem Hunt, who is so dynamic as both a runner and a pass catcher, back into that secondary role, which makes him even more of a danger to opposing defenses, because now you put them both on the field. Who's running, who's catching, who's split out wide, who is Baker's safety valve? Chubb is the biggest thing the Browns get back this year, because Chubb was on court on a pace to really do some damage this season like he did a year ago. He looked healthy in the videos from practice I've watched this week. Teller looked good getting off the line and blocking situations against the Browns front line on defense. So this could be a week where the Browns start really making a march toward their first playoff appearance in umpteen years. Look, if it was me and I'm Kevin Stefanski, I am running the snot out of the ball today, especially with the weather in Cleveland, but I'll get back to that in a minute. So I'm going to preach it, I'm going to hit on it, and I'm going to talk about it. The Browns need to win the line of scrimmage. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. It is time for them to start doing that again. If you notice, in the 3 games they've lost, the Cleveland Browns have lost the battle at the line of scrimmage. In the 5 games that they've won, they have dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They have to get back to that. Stefanski now has his horse in Nick Chubb. Time to move forward and time to get the job done, making Baker a better play action passer and making the Browns a full running team for the time being. But here's why that helps. So now I'm going to dive into the weather. It's nasty in Cleveland today. So all my friends and family that watch or listen to this, sorry you got the bad weather, but this could help the Browns because the Texans rush defense is one of the lower rated ones in the league. The Browns run offense is one of the higher rated ones in the league. This is a classic matchup of strength versus weakness. The Browns need to exploit this. They need to run the ball a bunch. They need to get Chubb into space and let him make moves and let him get separation against a defense that, from what I've seen on the few films of Houston I've watched this year, isn't that fast. The way anybody's ever beaten J.J. Watt when he has been dominant is to actually run the ball at him. So that means down that side of the line. Remember, Jadeveon Clowney is not the bookend defensive end on this team anymore. So it's J.J. Watt and his cast of players against that really good Browns offensive line that gets the biggest piece they've been missing in Wyatt Teller back today. So my game plan, if I'm Kevin Stefanski today, is I play keep away. Don't let Deshaun Watson on the field. This is an extremely high-talented quarterback who can get games won with just his arm and his legs, for that matter. Now, Deshaun isn't Lamar Jackson. He's not the breakaway speed or anything like that. He's not the dynamic runner that Lamar Jackson is. But what Deshaun is a seasoned quarterback who knows how he can get things done with both his arm and his legs to win games. That's what Houston needs to start doing. They're 2-6. They're not going to get to the playoffs this year. It's not going to happen. They're going under a full organizational overhaul with the firing of Bill O'Brien, who was the GM and head coach. They're ripe for the pickings. They are ripe for the Browns to take advantage of the the strengths they have as a team. And that is up front, and that is in the offensive backfield. Having good tight ends against this team is good as well because they have one of the lower pass defense ratings in the NFL as well. This is a defense that's not performing well. And I know I go into both sides of the ball, but I really want to focus on the Browns offense on this for that reason. This is the first time the Browns are playing against a defense in a while, against a defense that is rated low in both the rush and the pass. They can take advantage of this and win this game. But not only can they do it that way, they can play keep away. And what I mean by playing keep away is not throwing a ball around people like you did when you were kids. Run the football, eat the clock, limit the amount of possessions they get. The Texans are 23rd in point efficiency in the NFL, which means it takes them more possessions to get points than it does the Browns, who are 11th. So now Cleveland can not only play keep away, burn the clock, get Nick Chubb the ball a ton, but they can do it and be efficient enough to get enough points on the board to get the game won. Another thing that I think this will help is I've been banging his drum for years. Nick Chubb, healthy and running the football, will help Baker Mayfield. Now, a lot of people, including the talking heads, are Baker's done, Baker's this. No, Baker is the quarterback of the Browns. He is a decent NFL quarterback, and he's better than anyone the Browns have had for the last 15, 20 years. Give him time. Now that his offensive line is healthy again, let's see what he does. He doesn't have Odell. But I think with Hollywood, the combination of Hollywood and Jarvis and DPJ and Austin Hooper, when he's healthy, when he comes back from appendicitis. David Njoku had a couple of big catches against Cincinnati. Harrison Bryant, who has been an absolute revelation as a rookie. He's got enough weapons to get the job done and get into the postseason. Because once you're in the dance, anything can happen. Just ask next week's opponent and Nick Foles. So jumping to the other side of the ball. The Browns defense always captained and led by Myles Garrett, who is a defensive player of the year, odds-on favorite with his outstanding season. But even with as good as he is, the Browns pass rush is only ranked 16th in the NFL. They need to do that today, but they need to do it disciplined. They can't be going hair on fire, chase Deshaun. You've got to box him in. You got to keep him from being able to break out and run, because that is when the big plays will happen. That is when you see Lamar Jackson make the big plays, when you get a good pass rush from the outside, but the inside is taken care of, and he takes off. Deshaun can do the same thing. Not with the same breakaway speed, as I said, but Deshaun can do the same thing. The Browns need to take advantage of the shambles offensive line that Houston has and put pressure on them. In the games that Myles Garrett has played against Deshaun Watson, he's got 3 sacks, and he's hit him 6 times. These guys were the same draft class. Deshaun Watson could have been a Brown, but they decided to trade the pick and took Deshaun Kaiser. Look how well that worked out. But it got us Baker, so maybe it did work out. I know I keep saying the keys to the game are the Browns handling of the line of scrimmage, but unfortunately, that really is the keys to the game every week the Cleveland Browns play. They are built on their line play, which is why they brought in Bill Callahan to fix the biggest glaring hole that the Browns had from the 2019 season, and that was the shoddy offensive line play by a relatively talented offensive line, but they didn't play well in the scheme. Having Bill Callahan in and having Stefanski run a scheme that works with the talents of this offensive line is why the Browns are 5-3. Getting big plays on defense from Myles Garrett and a couple of other guys is why the Browns are 5-3. I will say this. I am not happy that the Cleveland Browns did not make a move at the trade deadline. I know the NFL trade deadline is not like Major League Baseball, which I went into in depth with both Alex, Tone, and of course on my own single episode. But the Browns not making a move for defensive secondary help bothers me, because this is a team that is getting beaten up in their defensive secondary, mostly in the safety position. Greedy Williams has been oft injured. Denzel Ward has been very good, but had injury issues. Andrew Sendejo has taken a beating, not only on the field, but also on Browns Twitter, which, by the way, pretty dark place. Almost as dark as Mets Twitter, but the episode I'll do either tonight or tomorrow, we'll get into why Mets Twitter is probably one of the nicest places to be now. All in all, the Cleveland Browns have a bunch of winnable games in the second half of the season. And in order to win those games, they need to control the line of scrimmage. I'm going to say it every week. I'm going to pound it into people's heads every week. I'm going to say it about both teams I do previews for every week. But that is the big thing. If the Browns control the line of scrimmage, the Browns will win this game. End of story. So the Browns are 4-point favorites going into today. And I think they cover. I think the Browns win this game by a touchdown. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. 21-14, maybe even 27-10 or 27-20. But I believe they cover the spread and they win this game, get to 6-3, going into next week against a Philadelphia Eagles team that has had its own problems. So the schedule lines up very nice for this team right now. To get to 6-3 would be huge, because Baltimore will most likely be 7-2 after this week. Who does Baltimore play? Baltimore plays. Oh, they're the Sunday night game tonight against New England. So, yeah, Baltimore's going to get to 7-2. Around the rest of the league, rest of the division anyway, Pittsburgh is playing Cincinnati, so look for Pittsburgh to get to 9-0. The Browns are still in this thing to get to the playoffs, but they're not in this thing to get the division, I don't think. They would have to basically win out and get to 13-3 in order to win the division. That includes beating Pittsburgh and hoping somebody else does. So I try and keep the Sunday morning stuff to 15 minutes. As I have said before, I'm not ESPN. I'm not one of these guys. I'm not going to do an hour-long pregame show for something that only needs 15 minutes to give you keys to the game and a few other things. So let's get into what's coming up from Big Rican in the next couple of weeks. This week, I will drop the New York Mets hot stove episode. I will discuss in depth what I think of the new ownership regime under Steve Cohen and the president of the league, of the team, excuse me, former Met GM Sandy Alderson. I will then get into what I think the Mets should do in the hot stove season in this episode. COVID willing, next weekend on Saturday, we will bring you a Friday night, Buckeye pregame live as Ohio State plays at noon next week against Indiana, who shut out Penn State yesterday, or not Penn State, Michigan State yesterday. So we'll see the Buckeyes next week against Indiana at noon, but I am working Saturday, so I won't be able to do it Saturday morning. I will come with you Friday night. And, of course, next Sunday, we will preview Browns and Eagles from Cleveland. Again, there's 80-something episodes. Give me 1 second. We're 84 episodes in. Mets episode for this week is 86. Next weekend, the two are 88. We are coming very close to the 100th episode, which I promised will be the Michael Jordan-LeBron debate. I actually have been working on it pretty steadfastly. This is going to be a long episode. It won't be a live, but it's going to be a pretty long episode. But another treat I'm going to add to this. Friday night, December 11th, will be the Big Rican fanatical preview of the 117th playing of the game between the Wolverines of that team up north and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Give me this game, world. I'm dying for it. Saturday the 12th will be huge because not only is it Ohio State, Michigan, but more importantly, it is my son Zachary's 17th birthday. So I know I'm going to have him on at some point in time, have my daughter on at some point in time, but the fanatical preview of the 117th playing of the game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and that team up north who continues to lose is coming on Friday night, December the 11th. So I will see you guys next Friday on sometime this week with the Mets episode. I will see you live on here Friday night with the Buckeye preview. Maybe I won't do it live. Maybe I'll just do it and put it up. And then I'll see you guys Sunday morning for Browns preview. Go Dogs. I like the Browns again today. 27-20. Win it by a touchdown. Get the W at home. Make the crowds happy. Go Dogs. We will see you in a week. Take care, everybody.